Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Calling All Creatures. I'm your host, Laurie, and tonight we are I should say I, not we. I am talking to Rebecca Minelga, and Rebecca is many different things. She's an author, she's a speaker, she's an advocate for therapy dogs and service dogs and stuff like that. And she is also a guide dog puppy raiser, and she helps raise puppies to become guides for blind people. So I think it's going to be a great podcast tonight. And Rebecca, thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So let's just talk a little bit first off about what kind of inspired your passion for dogs and the human-animal bond.
Yeah, for sure. I am one of those kids who grew up always loving dogs, always wanted a dog, and unfortunately, about the time that I was 10 years old and my parents' old dog passed away, we went through a lot of family upheaval, and a dog was not in the picture. But I asked and asked and asked for years. The year I left for college, my parents bought my baby brother his first dog.
Oh, wow.
Right? So that was like that thing that you take with you, and you know going forward, someday I'm going to get to be a dog person. I miss it. I want it back. Like this is the thing that I just really want to do. And that was kind of combined with, in middle school, I read this amazing book. It's called Follow My Leader. And it's from the 1960s, so it's a little old. It hasn't fully aged perfectly. But it's about a boy who goes blind when a firecracker explodes in his face. And he gets a guide dog, and his whole life changes when he gets that guide dog. And there was just something in that book that spoke to me at such a deep, visceral level. I took that book to college with me. You know, I got married. We moved across the country. And years later, we are sitting at a local county fair watching the kids do their guide dog puppy evals. And I just kind of leaned over to my husband and I was like, I have always wanted to do that. And he was so funny. He shrugged his shoulders and he kind of bumped his shoulder into mine and he said, "You're an adult, go do it."
Right.
And so that was like that seed of a dream that was planted when I was a middle schooler. Took 20 years to blossom. But when it finally got to blossom, within 2 weeks, we were involved, we were connected. 3 months later, we brought home our first puppy. And 2 months after that, we started raising full time. And with the exception of having a couple of kids and taking some little breaks here and there, we've pretty much been raising guide dogs now for the last 20 years.
And so this all started out with you and your husband sitting in the park and watching the evals going on.
Right, exactly.
So that's pretty cool that, you saw that and then you just kind of was like, okay, this is what I want to do. So I'm going to do it.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing about being an adult, right? You get to go do the things you want to do. Right,
exactly. Sometimes you don't get to do the things you want to do, but yeah, well, most of the time.
Right, that is true. That is true. But like we were young adults. We had just graduated college. It was one of those, like, at the time we hadn't quite realized that as adults you get to do the things you want to do. You don't have to wait for permission. You just get to go do it.
Right. So tell us what it's like to actually raise puppies for the guide dog program.
Yeah, absolutely. So we get puppies when they are about 8 weeks old. They are teeny tiny little balls of fluff. They do receive a little bit of socialization at the Guide Dogs campus, but they really come to us as a pretty blank slate. And we keep them until they're about 14 to 16 months old. And during that intervening year and then some, we are responsible for doing their basic and advanced obedience, all of their public socialization, and then all of their house breaking and house manners. So at the end of their time with us, the goal is that we have a really confident, resilient, calm dog that's able to function in the world without being scared, without being overwhelmed very easily, without being overstimulated. They're pleasant to live with. They're pleasant to be out in public with. We kind of joke that we take them through high school. and then we send them back to guide dogs, and that's like going away to college. And then if they pass their guide dog training, they get partnered with a person who is blind or visually disabled. And we kind of joke that that's like marriage for them. So you get to kind of raise up a kid. It's a puppy, but like a kid, the same way you would raise up your child over 20, 25 years. But we get to do it all in the span of about 2 years.
Right.
So it's incredibly rewarding. They're super duper cute when they're little. It is a lot of work because obviously you are doing everything from scratch. You're doing everything from, this is your name, to really complex things like, we're going to take the light rail down into the city, and we're going to go out to dinner, and then we're going to go take in a show, and then at 11 o'clock at night we're going to get back on the light rail and take it another hour back out of the city. So we really get to build them from very simple, come when you're called, sit your butt down on the floor, to these really complex tasks that take a great deal of confidence and resilience to accomplish.
Right. So, you guys have them for, you said, the first year of their life, and then they go on through to see if they're actually going to qualify to become guide dogs, correct?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, so we have them for about a year. About 70% of dogs that go through the puppy raising program do go back for advanced training, but only about half of all of our total dogs pass as a service dog.
Okay. So what qualities actually make a great guide dog or therapy dog?
Yeah, so two different things. So the qualities that make a great guide dog is, we want a dog that's very confident, or at least very resilient. And those are kind of two different things when we're talking about dog psychology. A confident dog is a dog that feels comfortable and calm and able to function in any environment, whereas a resilient dog is a dog that's maybe not fully confident in every environment, but they have that bounce backness. So if something does surprise them, or something seems a little spooky, they're able to process that and be like, oh, I'm okay. Okay, let's get back to work now. So we want a dog that's really confident, really resilient, and we want dogs that want to work. And that's one of the really wonderful things about raising service dogs. These dogs are not going to do it if they don't want to. So we often get this question of, well, you're making the dog work. What if they don't want to? And as someone who has now worked 20 years with them, it's so easy to say, if they didn't want to, they wouldn't. And I've had puppies that just decided, you know what, this life is not for me. I don't enjoy this. I don't want to do it anymore. And I have a great relationship. Guide Dogs takes that in, and they say, yeah, I think you're right. I think this dog is not cut out to be a service dog. Here's a couple other options. Do you think any of these are a good match? No. Okay, let's just go ahead and let them be a pet, because it sounds like they are going to be happiest as a pet. So at no point are we ever making a dog do something that they don't want to do. The dogs that pass are dogs that love being in public. They love working. They love being with their person. They love interacting with their person. They love getting food reward for doing things well. They love getting praise. They are so happy and fulfilled, and it's just beautiful to watch that relationship unfold over months and years, and to see that dog. I have not launched a child yet, but I have a hunch it's a lot like when you launch your child and see them succeeding in college and then later on in life, that there's just such a joy in you that you got to be a part of launching them into that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, perfect sense.
Yeah. A therapy dog, on the other hand, it's a very different job. So therapy dogs are handled by one handler for the emotional benefit of others. And so I don't necessarily want a dog that can work all day and then go home and still play fetch for an hour in the backyard. I want a much more chill, calm dog. I want the dog that's happy to lay on the couch or roll over on her back to get her belly scratched. They do still have to be super calm if they spook easily. Kids move fast. If you're in a hospital environment, you've got sounds, you've got scents. You've got crutches and wheelchairs and assistive devices, all of which could potentially be spooky if you don't have a well-socialized puppy. But really, at the end of the day, what I want from that dog is a much more like calm, let's hang out, you can pet me, sure, I'll just lay here, this is the life for me kind of a dog. And so often what works out really well is a dog that's not a great guide dog, maybe a fabulous therapy dog, because the things that make them not a great guide dog make them a great therapy dog. And vice versa. If you have a dog that's maybe not a great therapy dog, they might need to work a little harder, and then you've got a great service dog candidate.
Right. Now, in the program, do you guys kind of stick with specific breeds of dogs for the guide dog program, or does it matter?
We do. Guide Dogs for the Blind uses Labrador Retrievers and Golden Retrievers. We do all of our breeding in-house and through partnerships with other service dog organizations. So we make sure that our bloodlines are really robust. We breed first for medical and second for temperament. We don't breed for body conformation at all. So we do get some kind of funny-looking dogs. They do not look like show labs or show Goldens at all. But we know that they are very, very healthy. They have healthy hips, they have healthy knees, they have healthy eyes. And then we know that they're very trainable and they want to work and be with their people and do all of those kinds of things. Historically, we have used other types of dogs, and there are other organizations even today that use other types of dogs. But the program we work with at Guide Dogs for the Blind is just Labs and Goldens, and then Lab Golden crosses.
Okay. Well, and I know I've heard that Labs and Goldens usually make the better guide dogs, I think, and stuff like that. So I don't necessarily, I don't know if it's something in the genetics or just because of their temperaments or what, but that's what I've heard is they make better guide dogs.
Yeah, it really does come down to that temperament. They want to please you. They're very food motivated and praise motivated, and they don't really have a stubborn streak. So yeah, it very much is that temperament. They want to work in partnership with you. Yeah.
So do you happen to have a story you could share about a dog that changed your life that you were raising?
I do. I have an incredibly precious story about a dog that changed my life. He is not one of my guide dog puppies. He actually came before them. But I say that he is the one who changed my life because he is the one who taught me that I had everything I needed to be successful raising guide dogs. So I mentioned that growing up, I wanted a dog and it never came to pass. Got married, moved across the country, we're settling into our new home. My husband was very aware that I wanted a dog. And we'd been in the Pacific Northwest for about 2 months. We moved here in the dead of winter, so it had rained for 60 days straight. And he said, hey, on a Saturday, let's just go to the shelter and see what's there. And we all know that when that conversation happens, we're not just seeing what's there. Like, we were coming home with a dog that day. We all know that. Right? So we went to a couple different shelters, and I absolutely fell in love with this dog based on his looks. First rookie mistake, right? And he was just the cutest thing, and he had these big pricked up ears and this big flagging tail, and he was like white with kind of black splotches and a brown blaze down his nose and a speckled pattern all over the rest of his body, and he just looked like a dog's dog. And he and I got along, and it was great, and I was like, this is the dog. We're taking this dog home today. Like I said, rookie mistake. It turned out that we had adopted an unsocialized Australian cattle dog, which is a tough breed to begin with. But to get one that was an adolescent and unsocialized meant that he needed so much to just exist in the world. He needed so much training. He needed so much support. He needed so many outlets for his brain and his body. And I was not equipped. I had been the girl who had loved dogs from my books, from like the couch on the TV for years and years and years. Had no idea how to actually train a dog at this point in time. And so everything I learned from Tag. And he... oh my goodness, he was such a basket case. He was such a hot mess, and we loved him. I loved him to pieces. And it was because of all that hard work, all that training that we had to do, all the behavior that we had to learn, all the tools to help support him and help him be successful. When I did have that opportunity to go raise guide dogs, and it's a little intimidating at first. There's a lot of jargon. At the time, we had a manual that was like an inch thick. It is not anymore, but at the time it was like an inch thick, full of training. Like, it's a lot to show up and be like, I want to raise a guide dog. And then it's like drinking from a fire hose, how much training and how much it kind of just comes at you. Especially then. It's a little different now. It's a little gentler now. But then it was just a lot to take in. And as my husband and I were there just absorbing all of, these are the rules, and this is the training, and this is how you do it, and these are the tools, and this is the equipment, there very much was this sense of, if you had thrown all this at me, and I had never trained a dog in my life, I would be so overwhelmed, I would quit. Like, I would walk away. There's no way I would be able to do this. But because we had gone through that with Tag, like, he is the dog who changed my life, because he taught me how to be a dog owner, how to train, how to raise, how to read body language, how to do all of those things that I now rely on every single day to raise guide dog puppies. Not a single one of these puppies would have ever been raised or been successful if not for him. So he not only changed my life, most people don't realize he's changed the lives of all the partners of all the puppies that I've raised, because I wouldn't have raised them if not for him.
Right. Well, that's pretty cool that, he was able to, he didn't know, but in a sense, he was helping you to get to where you needed to be for the puppies.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is ever wasted.
Right.
Yeah. And I will say that our program, as I said, is much gentler now. We've done some serious revamps. It's a lot friendlier. It's a lot slower to kind of take it all in. So if any listeners are like, oh my gosh, this sounds really fun. Oh, wait, no, this doesn't sound fun anymore. Just rest assured, it is a very gentle program now. It just wasn't when I started 20 years ago.
Right. Things evolve and change.
Right. Yes. And gentle in the sense of, like, you're not overwhelmed and slammed, not gentle in the sense of how we treat the dogs. We're always gentle and wonderful and kind with the dogs.
Right. Exactly. So what do you think, or what have you experienced as some of the maybe biggest misconceptions that people have about service and therapy or guide dogs?
Yeah, there are so many misconceptions, but I think a couple of the biggest ones that I would want to touch on are really questions that we always get all the time. And the first one, the biggest one, is, do they ever just get to be a dog? Because most people see them out in public wearing their harness, wearing their jacket or their vest. They're working. We say, no, I'm sorry, you can't pet them right now. They're working. And there is rather this sense of, well, when do they get to be a dog? Like, when do they get to play? Do they ever just get to have fun? And so one of the things that we always like to talk about is, when you go to work for the day, you have your special clothes that you might wear for work, whether that's a uniform or maybe it's just something a little nicer than you might wear on the weekends. But when you go home at the end of the day, you maybe change into some more comfortable clothes. You're not, during your work day, going out and while you're supposed to be working, throwing a frisbee with your coworkers. That's work time. But when you go home in the evening, maybe you go out in your backyard with your family and you toss around a frisbee, or you go down to the beach and you put your feet in the water. And so, yes, the answer is yes, they absolutely get to be dogs. They get to be pets. They get to have fun. They get to do all of those things. Just most people don't get to see that, because when they're in public, they're wearing the uniform, they're doing the work, and then they go home for the day and they lay on the couch and they take a nap and they run in the backyard and they do all the things that dogs love to do, because, hey, it's not work time anymore. So I would say that that's probably the biggest misconception that we run across, that people are like, if they're working all the time, do they ever get to have fun? And the answer is absolutely yes. And they are so incredibly loved and adored. I've got 2 sons that are 9 and 13, and if I don't have enough time to spend an hour hanging out with the dog at the end of the day, you can bet that they are climbing in her kennel with her, or they are on the floor cuddling her. or they're playing fetch with her in the backyard. Like, she is a part of the family for as long as she's being raised in our program. And every person that graduates with a dog, it's the same for them too. These dogs become beloved parts of the family.
Right. Yep. You know, and it's the same because I train service dogs for veterans and stuff like that with PTSD and stuff. And it's the same thing. You know, the dogs are taught on the clock, off the clock. So when they're on the clock, they're working, and then when the vest comes off or the harness comes off and stuff, and they're told playtime or off the clock, they get to go be a dog.
Absolutely. And sometimes, like, the difference is amazing. Some dogs are a little chill about it, but some dogs, you're like, are you even the same dog?
Right, exactly. They get those zoomies and they're running.
Right? And they're like, I get it. The vest is off. I get to play now.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, they get to have fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do these dogs help people heal emotionally as well as physically?
Well, I don't think it's any secret that the emotional relationship that exists between a service dog and a service dog handler is intense and deep and very, very important. And I will say that even being a puppy raiser, I have benefited tremendously from the emotional support of having a dog in my life at different periods of different things that I've gone through. So absolutely, there's a huge emotional component. There's just a couple of things that I would speak to with that. The first is that Guide Dogs for the Blind has what's called a Canine Buddy program. And so they are recognizing that some people aren't quite old enough yet for a guide dog. They're children, they're on a guide dog path, but they're just not ready yet for a guide dog. And then some people are on the other end of their journey where they've maybe had a guide dog for a prolonged period of time, or maybe multiple guide dogs, and they no longer live what we call a guide dog life, but they miss that companionship. And so our Canine Buddy program actually matches dogs in our program that aren't quite cut out to be a guide dog. They just don't quite have what it takes. But then we match them with either older or younger people who really want that experience of having a companion. For the children, obviously learning how to care for a dog, learning what it's like to live in partnership with a dog. For our older clients that have retired from the guide dog lifestyle, to just continue to have that be a part of their lives is so incredibly beneficial. And so as an organization, Guide Dogs has launched this program out of that recognition of how important that emotional connection remains even after your guide dog journey might end. I would also say I'm super proud that Guide Dogs is one of the only schools in the world that has a staff member whose specific job it is to help our clients process the grief of retiring their guide dogs. And what we are told as raisers and kind of people in this community, the relationship between a guide dog and their handler is often even deeper than a marriage relationship, than a parent-child relationship.
Wow.
I'm just kind of choking up even thinking about what that's like.
Right.
But they have a finite life. They have a finite working life, and they have a finite living life. And so then to have to let go of that kind of a relationship once, more than once sometimes, has an incredible impact on the person. And so that's one of many reasons that I love Guide Dogs for the Blind, because they've recognized that this is an intense bond, and they have someone whose job it is to shepherd clients through that process and be available to them and talk to them, and has the background to be supportive and to help them as they process that grief. And this particular person for us happens to be a guide dog user himself. And so not only can he speak to it from kind of more of a therapeutic position, but he can actually speak to it from a lived experience of having had multiple guide dogs in his own life. And that's not something that's super common yet. My hope that it would become more so with time, but that emotional bond is so, so deep. And it's so, so important that we are caring not only for the person and the body and the partnership, but also for the mind and the spirit and all of the other pieces that come into building this kind of relationship that a client and a guide dog have.
Right. And these dogs give these people, so much more freedom and ability to go about and live a more normal life than they would otherwise.
Absolutely, right? And so part of that grief is the realization that I don't get to live that life anymore until I get my next dog, if I get another dog.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, it is multifaceted.
Yep. So, you were also part of a little documentary about guide dogs, and they had you in there, and you were talking about raising puppies. What was it like to be able to do that documentary?
Yeah, that was one of the coolest experiences of our lives. So we were one of the families featured as a Razor Home in the 2018 dog-umentary, we joke dog-umentary, called Pick of the Litter. And they followed a litter of puppies from birth all the way through the training. So they were in the kennels when the puppies were born. They came out to the different puppy ceremonies where we get to receive the baby puppies at 8 weeks old. They came out to our home and filmed in our home many, many times over the course of the subsequent year. And then ultimately, when the dogs were recalled back to campus, we call it recall when they get to go back to campus for their advanced training. They continued to follow the dogs through that advanced training, and then through whatever the future held for them, whether that was partnership. I believe we had 2 of the 5 puppies graduate as guide dogs. One was accepted as a breeder for Guide Dogs for the Blind. So I mentioned that we do all of our own breeding in-house. And so the very best of the best get to become a breeder. And then we had, I believe, 2 career changes out of that litter, which means a puppy that didn't make it through the formal training. We don't like to use the word flunky. Every dog finds its perfect career. That career might be as a pet. So we use the term career changed.
Right.
But yeah, it was really cool to get to be a part of it. I had never done anything like that before. We had some concerns early on. Oh, is this going to be like reality TV where they're going to tell a story that's really different from what's actually happening? But the team that did it, KTF Films, they were amazing. They were in the Bay Area, which is where our primary campus is. They had worked with guide dogs in the past on some news stories. And so they really brought such a sense of, we want to tell the uplifting part of this story. We want to tell the story of what it's like to be a raiser. We want to tell the story of what it's like to receive a guide dog. And they did such a fabulous job. At last I checked, Pick of the Litter is the number 2 dog-rated movie of all time on Rotten Tomatoes. It is only beat out by 101 Dalmatians.
Oh, very nice. That's pretty cool.
Yes. Yeah.
So at the beginning, I did mention, too, that you are an author, and you've written some novels inspired by your experience. How much of your real life finds its way into your stories?
Oh my goodness, so much. So my debut novel came out about a year ago. It is a sweet sports romance where love is a 4-legged word, and it follows a young woman who's been through a traumatic event, and she is sublimating that trauma through working with her therapy dog, helping children who have been hospitalized. And through that process, she meets a little boy who needs much more than a furry friend, meets his father as well, and realizes that she has a second chance not only at love, but more importantly at living. And this was, in the publishing world, we call it our heart book, the book that you write because it was the book that you needed. And so much of that book came out of some of the challenges of my own past, and out of all of my work with guide dogs over years and years and years of puppy raising. Obviously in the story, it's a therapy dog, not a service dog candidate, but in kind of a really funny way of life imitating art. Right about the time that book published, one of my guide dog puppies career changed. She did not flunk, she career changed. And they asked us if we wanted to bring her home, and we said absolutely. And about 3 months later, we had finished our training, and she is now a working therapy dog in 2 local school districts, and we also do corporate support. And so as I get ready for the launch of book 2 in that series here in September, it's been really fun to kind of write that second book very much through the lens of I now work with children in schools with a therapy dog, and getting to write that story about a teacher who has a traumatic event in the classroom, and then the therapy dog that comes in to help her and her students recover, really felt so true to life to what my therapy dog and I are doing right now in classrooms every week, all year long.
Nice. That's really cool. So if you guys are out there and y'all are listening into this podcast, go see if you can find Rebecca's books and check them out, because it does relate to her real life stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you hope readers will take away after they finish one of your books?
I try to write kind of on the edge of women's fiction and sweet romance. So real big, real world issues, but with a really accessible commercial voice that you would tend to find in kind of trade paperbacks. And so what I really hope that readers take away is a story of hope and resiliency. We talk about it as being cozy, as being recovery. I don't know that I always feel like that really matches. Mind the trigger warnings, because they are in the fronts of every one of my books. But really what I hope is that every story I write is a story of hope and resiliency. It is a story that says who you are now is not who you will be forever. What you are feeling and experiencing right now is not what you will feel and experience forever. There are second chances. There are ways to move forward and to move past and to live full, wonderful lives, even after incredible pain and incredible difficulty. And a lot of that does come out of some of my experiences in my own life. And as I said, I wrote the book that I needed to read, the book that said, yes, what you're doing is hard, and there is something that will come after. And this will never not be hard, but you will grow enough to see how the person you will become was shaped by this. And if you're proud of the person you become, you value the shaping.
Right.
And that's really what I want people to take away, that there is hope, there's a future, there is opportunity to have a second chance. And all of that alongside these beautiful relationships, because I always make sure that dog character is not a side character. They are a main character. They have a personality. They have a way of interacting with all the different characters that is very whole and very filled. And that comes obviously from all of the work that I've done with dogs over the years, and seeing all their different personalities.
And speaking about all the dogs over the years and the work, since you've worked with so many dogs over the years, what's something you think you've learned from the dogs that's maybe made you a better person?
Oh, that is such a great question. I love that question. I have learned, so many things. Some of the most important, I would say, are consistency, the importance of consistency. Just showing up every day, making sure the rules don't change, being really upfront. These are my expectations, and not being wishy-washy about it. I joke often that I raise guide dogs and 2 sons in that order, and it really is true, because everything I know about raising children I learned from raising dogs. It's a slower process, but a lot of the same rules apply.
That's true.
Right? And then the other thing I think that I've learned that has made me a better person is dogs are so incredibly attuned to body language, to scent, to emotion, all of those things that when you're carrying something stressful, they know it and it impacts them. And it's really easy to get frustrated and be like, why are you not doing the thing? I just want you to do the thing. Whether it's a sit or a down or a heel position, why are you not doing the thing? And they're like little mirrors. And so if you are willing to look in that mirror, they're going to show you, well, I'm not doing the thing because I'm confused. I'm stressed. I don't know what you want from me, because the energy that you brought in isn't the energy that's going to help me be successful. And so I think you could probably really simplify it by saying, they've taught me to be more emotionally stable because that's what they need to be successful. But really, it's so much about recognizing how much they take in that doesn't exist in our human world. The scents don't exist. The body language isn't the same. And so all of those things that we bring into that interaction at any given point in time, they reflect that back. And if you're calm and you're consistent and you're asking for things that they are capable of and you're aware of their thresholds, they're going to be successful. But if you're coming into it stressed, upset, carrying things, short-tempered, irritated, all of those things, they're going to carry that too and not be as successful. And so really making sure that you yourself are grounded and centered before you bring yourself to them has been such a lesson for me, because I am a person who tends to just like, blah, I'll spray my emotions all around. Right. I feel really frustrated right now, right? Uh-huh. And they're like, I'm not going to be successful if you do that. Could you just bring it down a notch for me? And so really having to stop and be like, ooh, okay, I'm now in a place where I can help you because I have centered myself.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now if someone out there would like to support organizations that train, guide, or service dogs, even if they can't volunteer, what advice or how can they support those organizations?
Absolutely. There are a lot of ways, even if you can't volunteer. Now, obviously, I would say please do volunteer. There are guide dog schools all over the United States. And there are other service dog organizations as well, all over the United States. Ways that if you can't volunteer, you can still help support. The number one way is through education and advocacy. We are facing what we call a service dog epidemic, or a fake service dog epidemic. And we do run across fake service dogs, emotional support animals, untrained, undertrained, under-socialized dogs in the public sector all the time. And a lot of that does come from a place of genuine ignorance, a genuine not understanding. So I always encourage people, first and foremost, to get educated, do your reading, go on these websites, find out more about service dogs, and then become an advocate. Be someone who tells their friends and family, hey, guess what I learned? And really starts to become a voice for service dog users all over the world, really, but even here in the United States, it is something that's really challenging to live your life beside a service dog. And so education, advocacy, absolutely. Most of these organizations are always fundraising. So if you have funds to give, find a service dog organization that is close to your heart. There are so many dogs that do so many different things. Find the one that matters to you and give to that one. Hop on their social media, interact with them. Algorithms today love interaction. So all you have to do is like or comment. And what that's going to do is it's going to tell the algorithm, this is interesting. I should push it out to other people that maybe haven't seen it. So that's another great way that really takes no effort, and you get to look at cute puppy pictures too. And then the last way that I would say is a really great way to get involved, even if you can't volunteer, is to reach out to an organization that sounds interesting to you or that you have a heart for, whether that's veterans, whether that's guide work, whether that's scent alert work, diabetic alert, seizure alert, cardiac alert, whatever that looks like, and just kind of ask them, what do you guys need? Because a lot of times they would love, hey, I can send you a bag of dog food from Chewy. Or I can ask my friends if they've got some old fleece blankets and I could pack them up in a box and send them to you. So really great ways to get involved and to support that don't require that year-long commitment of raising a puppy or having a dog in your home or any of those pieces.
Right. Yeah, most definitely. That's some good advice to bring up to people. So,
yeah.
And speaking of advice, what kind of advice would you give to someone who does feel called to become a puppy raiser or maybe a therapy dog handler?
Yeah. So first of all, I would say go for it, right? Especially puppy raiser, go for it. Every organization right now is hurting for puppy raisers. We have very, very long wait times for our clients. I know guide dogs for the blind right now, it's more than a year for a client to get a guide dog. And really that is because we only have so many raisers. And so we're raising puppies as fast as we can, but it takes a year. And so we genuinely need more raisers to serve more clients. So absolutely go for it. That would be my advice. After you get past that advice, I would say learn everything that you can about dog body language. And there are amazing resources out there all over the place. I believe our guidebook is actually available to the public, and it includes an entire section on dog body language, but so much of puppy raising, so much of training, so much of my work with my therapy dog relies on being able to read the dog's body language well, because that body language is going to tell me very early on, do you feel confident and comfortable? Do you feel nervous? Do you need more space from this spooky thing to feel successful? When I'm working with my therapy dog, we are often working with elementary school age children. And there can be as much as 6 to 10 of them gathered around her in any given moment. So my ability to read, she's feeling overwhelmed. She's feeling overstimulated. She's giving off signs that she's no longer comfortable. We need to stand up and take a break. Or, hey guys, I need you all to scoot back on your butts to the edge of the carpet and just give her a little bit of space. So much of the raising and so much of the work that I do with my therapy dog relies first and foremost on the handler's ability to read what the dog is feeling and then to respond to that really proactively. And that's really difficult, because to respond proactively, you have to see what's going on, you have to understand and interpret it correctly, and then you have to make changes often before the dog even reaches a point where they're like, hey, I can't do this anymore. Because once you've reached that point, like as a raiser and as a handler, you've kind of failed, right? Because then you just have to walk away and be like, okay, we're going to try again tomorrow. And so dog body language, probably the most important thing that people can learn about if they're interested in becoming a puppy raiser or a therapy dog handler, or really do anything in the dog training world. It's so incredibly important.
I agree with that. It is very important. And we tell when our service dog team through the Soldier's Best Friend, when they first start out and they get this manual, for handlers and stuff, and that actually has dog body language stuff in it for them. So I was glad to see, because I'm just starting with them. I've been training service dogs with another organization and then evaluating for soldiers, but now I'm going with them to also do training. So I was glad to see that they did include that in their manual so that the handlers can learn the dog's body language and kind of know what their dog's telling them.
Absolutely. I'm in public often, and I see individuals who really are not reading their dog's body language at all. And it's such a great opportunity for education, because I'm often out with my children. Mm-hmm. And so I'll kind of lean over and say to my 13-year-old, what are you seeing in that dog right now? And so even just mentoring him through starting to understand, well, I'm seeing these things. Okay, do you think that means they're comfortable or uncomfortable? What
Right.
could that handler do differently right now to help raise their dog's comfort level?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we tell our teams all the time, too, it's not just, you guys are a team. It's not just about your dog checking in with you to make sure you're okay. You've got to be checking your dog as well.
Absolutely. When I went through the training for my therapy dog, that was probably one of my biggest takeaways, was how much I, as the handler, am there. She's there for the people. I'm there for her.
Right.
And I loved the way they put that my job is to support her.
Yep.
And sometimes that is intervening or anything else.
Right.
But I'm not necessarily there for the people. Of course I'm there for the people. I want to hear the stories, all of the things. But she's there for the people. I'm there for her.
Right, exactly. And if you see her body language starting to tell you that she's starting to get a little overwhelmed, then you need to, politely end the visit. I need to go take her to potty or whatever you need to do to take her out of there, to let her de-stress and calm down. So, I mean, yeah. And it's funny because I did animal control for 12 years. And so, I was with 3 different animal control. I did shelter, and then I was just basically field, and then I did shelter again. Well, shelter and field go together, but the one organization, they didn't have a shelter. It was just field work. But that is so important when you're working in the shelter environment and stuff. You read these dogs' body language a lot to, see what's going on with them. And it always amazed me. I would get people coming in wanting to adopt, and they would bring their dog in, to see about making sure they get along, and they have no clue how to read their dog. Mm-hmm. And they'd be, oh, my dog just really wants this and wants that. And I'd be like, no, that's not what your dog's telling me.
Right. But then I think back to, that very first dog tag, and I had no clue.
Yeah.
And so, always trying to hold that with, a humility, not an arrogance of, well, you can't read your dog's language, but always holding it with that humility of, I also did not know how to read my dog's language.
Yeah.
And, oh, boy, did he and I have a crash course to figure it out together.
Yeah, that's the fun part, figuring it out. Yeah. So.
Right? You only ever make that mistake once.
Yep. So, what exciting projects are you working on right now?
Oh, that's I have a couple of projects that I'm working on at the moment. I have 3 coming up in the next year that I'm super excited about. The first one is the sequel to my first novel, is coming out at the end of September. So the first one is called Third and Long. The second one is called False Start. And so that is coming out on September 29th. So we're gearing up for that. Right around the beginning of August, we're going to start putting together the beginning stages of our marketing and starting to get it out into readers' hands to get some early copies and some early reviews and some early feedback. So if you do have listeners that are readers that would be interested in snagging an early copy of that, I would love to connect with them. And then the third book in the series, it is a trilogy. The third book in the series will be coming out next summer. So I'm currently in the process of finishing drafting that first draft. And then the other projects that I have that I'm so excited about, I do have a traditional publishing deal with a small publisher called Wild Ink Publishing, and they are doing my debut picture book next year, which is about a little boy who raises his first guide dog puppy, and how the gift that he kind of hoped to give to someone else really becomes the gift to himself, because he learns through this process how to be a good raiser, how to read his dog's body language, how to support her in her journey, and then has to learn the hardest lesson of all, which is how to say goodbye. Right.
Yep, that is the hardest one, let me tell you. That's very hard.
Yes. So, 3 books coming out over the course of the next year. I'm very excited.
Very nice, very nice. And with that being said, so where can listeners find your books or connect with you or even learn more about your work?
Absolutely. So my website is RebeccaMinelga.com, REBECCA, M as in Mary, I, N as in Nancy, ELGA. And so everything about me is available on that website. I am also on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Blue Sky at Rebecca Minelga. So if they are on social media, I would love to connect with your listeners over there. And then in terms of finding my books, they are widely distributed. So you can find them on bookshop.org, Barnes & Noble. You can find them on Amazon. I really encourage you to purchase from anybody else. But if that's your go-to, that's okay. You can also request that your local library put them in stock. And Third and Long has an ebook, a paperback, and an audiobook. And False Start will be released as a ebook and a paperback in September. So wherever you get your books, you can get those books there.
Very cool. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad that those are going to be coming out, and hopefully the listeners out there will take the opportunity to pick them up and read them and kind of see, because like we said, you're kind of doing this off your experiences, so they can kind of see how things go with that. So
yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Rebecca, it's been awesome having you on the podcast this evening to talk about all this stuff, but we are nearing the end. And again, guys, go out and pick up Rebecca's books, or see if you can volunteer with any of your local organizations that are doing guide dogs or therapy or service dogs, or anything you guys can do to help out is always great. And again, I so appreciate you coming on and talking about guide dogs and your books and all this stuff, Rebecca. It's been great talking with you, but I'm just going to go ahead and announce my next couple podcasts I have coming up, and you are welcome to stay on, or you can jump off right now, because I know a lot of people, have busy lives and they have other things to get to. So
yeah. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's been a great conversation. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, thank you. And maybe in the future, when you get some more books coming out, maybe we'll have to get back together again.
I love it. Let's do it.
All right. Thanks, Rebecca. You have a good evening.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye. All right, everybody. Well, that was pretty awesome talking with Rebecca about guide dogs and all that great stuff that she does. So hopefully you guys will go out and pick up her books and give them a read, and let her know what you think. So I'm sure she's open to any comments or whatever you want to make. So, and with that being said, let me go ahead and get into my next couple of upcoming podcasts. So on July 23rd, I am actually going to be talking about the unspoken bond between animals and people. It's a human-animal bond, kind of like what we had a little bit in here tonight. But I was speaking with, hold on, let me get her name pulled up here, guys. Sorry about that. I should have had this ready. Anyway, I'm going to be speaking with Jackie Ducci. She's the founder of the Human-Animal Alliance, and she just did a documentary called The Unspoken Bond, where she's talking about the Human-Animal Alliance. And so she's going to be on the podcast to talk about what her organization is all about and how they're helping out organizations that maybe need some grants or some help. As long as their organization is like a 501c3 and they have that human-animal connection, her organization is more than willing to help you guys out. And so she's going to come on the podcast and talk more about that and all of the great things that her organization does. So hopefully you guys can tune back in for that. And then after that, the next one will be on August 6th. And I'm going to have Dr. Carrie Kroger, who's the founder, executive director, and ecologist for Save the Frogs. So we're going to be talking about frogs, guys. I can't wait to talk with Dr. Kroger and learn more about frogs and saving frogs, and that's actually what his organization is called, is Save the Frogs. So I think that's going to be a pretty cool podcast. If you guys are frog lovers, hopefully you guys will come back and tune in and listen to that podcast as well. So anyway, that's what we're looking at for the next couple podcasts. Again, July 23rd, The Unspoken Bond with Jackie Ducci. And then on August 6th with Dr. Carrie Kroger, Save the Frogs. So hopefully you guys will be able to tune back in a couple weeks. And with that being said, guys, I'm going to end it right here. I hope you guys all have a great weekend. I hope you all had a great 4th of July. And stay safe out there and don't get into too much trouble. And hopefully you'll be back in a couple weeks to listen in again. All right. Good night, everybody.